people forgot it was 6 o'clock instead of 7. Okay, so we're gonna hold off for about 5 minutes. Potty breaks, anything you wanna do? Forgot to sign up, now's the time to do it, okay? And we'll start this close to 10 after as we can. We'll just go quickly after we do that.
Here.
Ellen Cara.
Here.
Ken Hartsfield.
Here.
Vicky Good.
Here.
Jerry Penland.
Here.
Charles Schrader.
Here.
Steve Stanner.
Here.
And for the record, Peter Scanlon is away.
If you would all join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Approval of the minutes of June 8th. Anybody have any questions? Okay, then we need a motion by acclamation that we approve the June 8th minutes. Motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, was that Ken? Did you move that?
Thought I did, but it could have been somebody else as well.
Put them all down. Item 4 tonight is public hearings for the Tamarack Center PUD amendment, ZON 17-002, Woodland Park Microtel Site Plan Review, SPR 17-003, and Tamarack Center Filing Number 3, Final Plat, Sub 17-003. Request by Mark Rabeau, Purple Mountain Hospitality 2 LLC, property owner and applicant, for approval of a PUD amendment, site plan review and final plat to develop a 63-room lodging facility on 2.04 acres at 723 West US 24, Woodland Park, Colorado, in the Tamarack Plan Unit Development, and this is a quasi-judicial meeting. Now, before we start, disclosure of any parte communication of conflict, any biased communication. Small town, Lillis, we know everybody, so that makes it difficult. But the point is, are you biased on anything that's going on? I'm on the downtown development, and what I purposely did is that I did not go attend any of the meetings. I never read the applicant's application. I didn't go to the meetings where they voted on, so I could be here. So I've had none of that communication, and I have no problem for staying with the meeting. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm also on the Downtown Development Authority, and while I have read some of the negotiations for the tax incentive financing with Purple Mountain Hospitality, I did not attend the meeting where there was a vote to approve it. I feel I can be unbiased in the discussion for the planning and use of this land, but if there is anyone who disagrees with that, I would be glad to recuse myself.
Anybody else?
My husband's on the DDA board, but I have made no conclusion here nor there. I come here with an open mind.
I have had a past business relationship with Mr. Rabeau. I've provided architectural design services for some renovation work in the Country Lodge. That business relationship is concluded 2 years ago. I don't feel that will influence me on my review of this project.
Anybody else? Steve? Anybody up here on this board have any problem with this? Because if you don't, we'll move on. Okay? We will have the staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a quick review to begin with is what the hearing procedure will take place this evening. First will be the staff's presentation. Then the applicant will have an opportunity to present, and then the Planning Commission will be asking questions to glean as much information as possible through the testimony. Then the public comment period will be open for anyone who is interested in making comments or asking questions related to this project. Once those comments are complete from folks in the audience, then the chair will close the comment and the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal to answer those questions or rebut some of the statements. Then the Planning Commission will go into deliberations where they're able to express their opinion based on the evidence that they have heard this evening, and then have their motions, any further discussions, and taking a vote. It's important to note there will be 3 separate motions associated with this case, and I'll review those quickly with the request and the process. First of all, the request is from applicant Mark Rabot, Purple Mountain Hospitality 2 LLC, to develop a 63-room lodging facility on 2.04 acres at 723 West Highway, US Highway 24. The first motion will be with regard to the PUD amendment and plan changes in the land use and the final development plan, also referred to as the site plan and its associated plan, such as drainage, utilities, landscaping, and such. That is reviewed by this body and approved by this body. The PUD amendment does not go to City Council. Tonight is the final decision with respect to the PUD amendment and the site plan review. Then the second motion will be with regards to establishing dimensional standards. Those will deal with the height, the setbacks, the site coverage, and the lot frontage. So there are 2 hearings associated with the dimensional standards this evening, with the Planning Commission making a recommendation to City Council, and that will move forward on the July 20th hearing. So that's the second motion. The third motion deals with the final plat of creating 2 lots in the Tamarack Center filing number 3. There are the 2 public hearings associated with the final plat. This evening, the Planning Commission, in their third motion, will make a recommendation to City Council, and then City Council is the final reviewing body for the final plat. So that's what will transpire toward the end of this meeting. Begin with the zoning map. Everything is based on zoning. This is a planned unit development zone that was created with the approval of the plan in 1993. That City Council approved the original Tamarack Center PUD. That is why it is shown in lilac here, and I've outlined the subject property in black. You can also see by the zoning map that Highway 24 is to the west, and there is property zoned commercial central business district in light blue. And then as we go around the property, also to the north is planned unit development, and I'll speak to the uses. But to the east is the residential area that's subdivided as the Hunt Addition. It is single-family urban residential. And then to the south of the property is more PUD property and single-family. The hatched red line is the downtown development boundary. So this property is within the DDA, as you heard from a few of the Planning Commission members. This is the old 1993 plan, PUD plan, and I've highlighted or outlined in black the approximate area subject property for tonight. It was proposed with this building D, which was going to be a 10,000 square foot office building, 2 stories, 30 feet tall with 41 parking spaces and an underground detention facility. So that is the reason that when this was approved in 1993, and now a PUD allows for property owners to come back and make a recommendation or a request to change the use, and that is what Mr. Rabo is doing this evening. Here's an aerial that shows the subject property outlined now in yellow, and this was prior to the time that the O'Reilly and the Family Dollar, now Family Tree buildings were built in 2012, and so you can see the proximity of Country Drive as it relates to the subject property, the existing Country Lodge, also owned by Mr. Rabo. The vacant land that is to the north is owned by Mr. William Page. He has plans for this vacant property, since it is part of the Tamarack Center PUD. He will likely come back for an amendment to that as well. And then you can also see the Hunt addition and the existing homes that are on Timber Lane and Shady Lane, and the old railroad bed came right through the back of Gold Hill South and through this property right along through here, and in this area is one of the few areas still left where you can see the old railroad bed of the Midland Railroad, which was abandoned in 1949. So that gives you a picture of the site and the surrounding uses. Now, just a brief review of the site plan that was complete in your packet. First of all, this is Country Lodge, which does connect to US Highway 24 and also has access points to Gold Hill South and the O'Reilly and Family Tree, as well as Country Lodge. The applicant has proposed for the footprint, it's about a 9,500 square foot footprint with a total of 28,500 square feet in a 3-story building with a maximum height of 45 feet and 71 parking spaces, as close to Country Drive as they have situated this building. And the distance between the east side of the building to the east property line is over 100 feet. It's approximately 122 feet. So the building has a footprint of 66 feet on the narrow side and about 170 feet across. So this site plan becomes the final plan along with the associated plans in the future. I did want to share with you the grading plan, and that the grading had commenced in May. The city staff reviewed this according to our grading standards in the zoning regulations and the engineering specifications, and administratively approved the preparation for the site and filling the hole that we've often called this. So the grading plan was adequate and met all of the standards in the city code and engineering specifications. It's pretty well complete now and ready and prepped for development. The utility plan is important for water and sewer services, as well as the stormwater. We'll talk more about drainage, but there was a new line for the O'Reilly and the Family Dollar project that was put in that comes from Country Drive and goes over to Timber Lane, ties into the sewer there, so it has good gravity flow. It is a deep line, but it is well protected and can function for the hotel very nicely. The water is going to come in from the north side of the building, and there is already fire hydrants in this area to serve this property. However, the fire district will be looking at the construction drawings and ensuring that there is adequate fire protection for the site. Oh, and I should mention that the utilities director did review the utilities plan and has said that we have the capacity to serve it from a sanitary, sewer, and water service point of view. The schematic landscape plan shows that there will be new trees around the building on the west side as well as the north side, and that perimeter landscaping along the parking lot will take place. As far as the eastern side, the old railroad bed provides for a buffer between the neighborhood, and there are existing trees that I'll show you in a photograph that have been preserved in this area, and we'll talk about that buffer in a little bit more detail. So this landscaping plan will turn into a final landscape plan in the construction drawings that will include the specifics for size and type of material, plants, and then also an irrigation system. The lighting plan we looked at very carefully to ensure that there was no trespass or spillage of light beyond the property boundary, and that the light poles, the light fixtures are full cutoffs so that they don't create glare. There is a condition with the lighting plan for the final lighting plan to ensure that these fixtures are a warmer color so that they're not that really bright fluorescent white light, but at a 3,500 Kelvin or less, so that we have a warmer color to those fixtures. And then also we're asking the applicant, they have a light on this eastern side, to relocate that in an area that is not as close to that boundary line without harming their security lighting in the area. So they'll look at that. The architectural design of the microtel is very nice. They have included in this height is a peaked roof and gabled features as well as articulated walls, and they have included a variety of materials with the cultured stone on the first floor. The applicant, though, is exploring that this may be too cost prohibitive for him, so if he sees that the budget won't be able to handle the cultured stone for the full first floor, then we are comfortable with a wainscoting, which the cultured stone would come up to the bottom of the windows and provide for a wainscoting trim around the bottom of the building, so to anchor the building with that stone veneer. The siding in the middle of this building is hardy board plank, so a very nice material, and then asphalt shingles. And they've added entries, little awnings over the 4 entries, so it gives it a nice appealing entrance to the building. Moving on to the platting of the project. First of all, there was a preliminary plat that was done in 2012 with the O'Reilly and Family Tree project, And so the Microtel property was preliminary platted, which satisfies that requirement a few years ago. The final plat, I know you can't read the first sheet of this on this screen, but it's all technical surveying kind of language and pretty standard. What is key is the drawing on the second sheet of the filing number 3. Outlined in red is the property line for the 2-acre tract, and it also includes lot 1 of the first filing of the Country Lodge. The reason that they included the Country Lodge's land in this plat is because this common line right here was ever so adjusted. It used to be about right from this point down to here, and so it was in order to have enough room on the parking lot and provide for perimeter landscaping for the Microtel. So that common lot line was slightly adjusted toward the south in order to accommodate a slightly larger site for the Microtel. Now I'll share a few of the photos. This was pre-development. You can see the hole that was more of a retention pond. It has been a problem in the community for quite some time, so we're really happy to see that it could be redeveloped and filled and buildable for the community. And here is the post grading. The site for the Microtel is pretty much where the trucks are sitting out to the Country Drive. There is an elevation change between the base floor of the motel to the parking lot, and I'll be showing you a few retaining walls that will be internal to this site in order to make that footprint work, as well as there will be an access point kind of right across from the O'Reilly that will provide for access, and then it will loop around to the back side with a one-way out on the north side, so plenty of access to this site. This is looking in the direction toward the southeast, and you can see the Country Lodge and its proximity, how it will sit above the Microtel. And the next photo I'm going to show you is this property line on the north, and how there will be, so this is the vacant land that Mr. Page owns, the silt fence controlling erosion and silt. You can see the grade change here in this elevation. There will be about a 17, 18-foot retaining wall that will hold this side of the property up. This next photo is of the eastern side, adjacent to the single-family neighborhood, and here's that row of trees that were planted in '93 that were part of the original PUD that have been preserved along the Midland Railroad. And then you can see some of the neighbors' homes through the trees, and they'll be speaking tonight. This is looking at the other end of that tail that shows Shady Lane. This is the easement that connects both the storm sewer and the sanitary sewer out to Shady Lane. And a small portion of a parking area will project into this spot, but it has been buffered with fencing and the preservation of the trees. Last photo shows you the proximity of the O'Reilly Auto Parts, and And this, just behind the excavator here, is where the access road will come into the parking lot. So they've done a really nice job with the grading of this site. So now I'm going to move into the standards and the compliance with the code, beginning with the PUD amendment, and that's chapter 18.30. And the first item is the purpose of the PUD is, the integrity of the purpose is in line with this project, and it does comply by providing greater flexibility. PUDs allow for latitude in design with the proposed height at 45 feet. The street frontage via Country Drive, that is a private road, which is perfectly acceptable because it has dedicated easements for access and utilities, and there is also a maintenance agreement in place to ensure that Country Drive is well maintained and stays in good condition. It complements the other businesses around. There's ample buffer and open space and provides for productive use for a very challenging site. Then there are a number of final plan requirements. First is this complies with acceptable planning practices. Staff believes that yes, the health and safety, traffic, access, privacy, convenience, light, ventilation, conserving values of surrounding properties, and protect against fire and other hazards have been addressed, and I'm going to go into more details on those in the future presentation. As far as the location and the size, it's a little bit over 2 acres. Does have easements and buffer areas on this eastern side of the property. The surrounding properties I've already reviewed, so you just quickly again, the Hunts Addition and the single family to the east, Country Lodge to the south, retail to the west, vacant and more retail to the north. The density of residential is not applicable. This is not a residential project. Sometimes PUDs have both residential and commercial together, as well as dedication of parks or school sites, also not applicable. The location and widths of streets, again, Country Drive are dedicated tracks owned by Mr. Rabot, and they have a maintenance agreement with control of the Country Drive, and the width of that street, that easement, is 50 feet. That's standard for a city street that has curb gutter on the side. And the easements are adequate, and they mostly encumber the water and the sewer and the storm sewer. The next section deals with the use, bulk, location of the principal and the accessory buildings. First of all, there are no accessory buildings, only the principal building associated with this is 3 stories with a maximum height of 45 feet. The dimensions of that building is 175 feet by 66 feet, so a 9,500 square foot footprint. The building is 25 feet setback from Country Drive and 122 feet from the residential property boundary to the east, and the site coverage is 36.5%, mostly because the primary development is on the western side of the property, and it has that long strip of railroad right-of-way on the east side that gives it most of that open space. Again, the agreement is, there is the existing maintenance agreement, which the staff is satisfied with, and Mr. Rabeau can talk about that, how it works with his adjoining property owners in the question and answer schedule. This construction schedule, once the entitlements, this process is complete, Mr. Rabeau hopes to begin construction right of way starting in August or sooner if the building plans are approved, and then completion by May of next year. I should have put 2018 there, not 17. The grading permit, he hopes to finish it in less than a year so that he can be open for the tourist season next summer. The grading permit, as I mentioned, was issued in May of this year. With respect to the feasibility of disposal for sanitary waste and stormwater, this is where I'd like to do a little bit more detail about the stormwater plan. First of all the stormwater facilities are shown in blue. There is this existing storm pipe that traverses through the property that will be used for this project. This was installed as part of the O'Reilly and Family Dollar project and solved the problem of the hole retaining water so that we were able to take care of that issue with the water being held in this lower area. And then this entire site will be developed with curb and gutter, so to collect and convey the stormwater runoff to this east point on the site, and that inlet then will carry all the water into an underground detention facility that is also going to be a water quality facility that will have an impervious bottom so that some of the runoff will seep into the ground and will be able to be absorbed, and their outlet will be on this south end of the detention facility and then tie into the storm pipe that ties into Shady Lane and then eventually connects, drains to the Fountain Creek system. So this is all engineered per our detention and stormwater requirements, and it's been reviewed by our acting city engineer, who is David Buttery, in light of the fact that we don't have a city engineer right now. So he has reviewed it, and conceptually this is adequate. And David Carpenter is here this evening. He is the engineer for the client, or for Mr. Rabeau, and he will be providing a final plan for the drainage. The line in green is the sanitary sewer that was also installed in 2012 as part of the previous development. The parking plan shows that the majority of the parking of the 71 spaces is located in good proximity to the front door. There are doors, however, also all the way around the building for ingress and egress. And then there is some parking on the east side of this site, as well as this small area that does project a little bit into the railroad right-of-way and along that easement. So the standard is for 1 space per room, plus half a space for each employee. Therefore, there's a requirement for a total of 67 parking spaces. They're providing 71, so there are 4 extra parking spaces which can be used for snow storage. The landscaping plan mentioned earlier does comply with new trees and shrubs around the parking lot. Within a few of the islands, they have some islands that break up the parking area on the site, as well as preserving the existing trees to the east. So a final landscape plan is one of the requirements that will include the details for the plant sizes and types, as well as the irrigation. And this 63% of the site that is highlighted in either landscaping or open space. The requirement to have a legal subdivision is being processed concurrently with this PUD amendment, so that meets that requirement. It is consistent with the preliminary plat. The traffic impact study that was done by LSC Consultants has been reviewed by CDOT. It is acceptable to CDOT, and there is a projection of 458 average daily trips that would be generated as a result of this development. And this analysis looks at the intersections at the Country Drive right here on Highway 24, as well as on the little intersection to Gold Hill North. And all those intersections have been studied and projected out for 20 years. There is a rating system for intersections based on how much delay you have waiting to make your turns. And we provided you in your packet a summary of that very technical, detailed traffic study. These intersections will continue to function at a level C, which is very acceptable, and no improvements are required. The only thing that is necessary is an access permit that is pretty straightforward for CDOT because of the change in use. The location of fencing, berms, and retaining walls. This is pretty key for this site because of the grades and the protection of the neighborhood to the east. So first of all, the blue lines represent retaining walls of various sizes. So there's a retaining wall to the east because of the height of Country Drive and the location of the footprint of the building. And then another retaining wall because this one-way street goes down lower to the parking toward the back and then comes back up. So this retaining wall is necessary between the parking and that access drive. The large retaining wall on the north I mentioned already with the photographs, and so that will be in that location. There's another small retaining wall down here on this portion of the parking. The retaining wall on the east side, the reason I've put that in green is because it not only is going to be a retaining wall that will be anywhere between 3 and 5 feet tall, it will have on the top of it a privacy fence, a 6-foot high privacy fence, and that was in order to prevent the lights of the vehicles and help attenuate some of the noise as well from the parking area. So we believe that the applicant has done a very good job of trying to be sensitive to mitigate the commercial impact adjacent to the residential based on the fencing retaining walls. The signage, right now the applicant is proposing to have a wall sign on the end of the building, and that he also has a freestanding sign for the Country Lodge out on the highway, which was part of the original PUD with an electronic message board. He He plans at some time in the future perhaps to modify that sign and use it for both the Country Lodge and the Microtel. But at the immediate future, it will have a wall sign based on our current signage standards. And basically, it can be 66 square feet because the wall is 66 linear feet. The lighting, mentioned earlier how important the lighting is. So all new light fixtures will comply with the city's municipal code to prevent glare and provide full cutoffs. And the condition to relocate this easterly pole, we've asked the applicant to do that, as well as to limit the fixtures to 3,500 Kelvin for a warmer color. The location for outside storage areas, there is none. However, there is for solid waste or trash that will be collected in an enclosed dumpster. Employee projections, there are projected to be 8 employees for guest services, management, cleaning. The cost-benefit analysis, Mr. Rabeau is projecting that the taxes between both the regular city tax, 3%, plus the lodging tax could generate over $173,000 a year. There's also an increase in property taxes. However, the DDA will be receiving that increment, the growth in property tax, and they have negotiated an agreement with Mr. Rabeau to provide a TIF reimbursement to him over the next 13 years of varying percentages, starting out with 75%, then reducing it to 50 and 25% for the last 3 years. There's a requirement to have a note on the plans that all activities and uses shall be authorized and be operated to meet the performance standards in Chapter 1833. We will add that to the final site plan. Moving into the dimensional standards. The maximum site coverage is calculated at 36.5% based on the building, the structures, and impervious surface for the parking lot and the sidewalks. The maximum height is 45 feet. Typically, a commercial height is 35 feet. We're comfortable with a 45-foot height at this location. It does not obstruct views at this height. It fits into this terrain very nicely, and it provides for a peaked roof that is an architectural enhancement as opposed to a flat roof on the building. The minimum lot frontage, the lot fronts Country Drive, there's 184 feet on that, and this is acceptable because of the easements and connects with a recorded easement to the highway. The building setbacks, although this building exceeds these setbacks in the sides and the rear, it is 25 feet for front and rear and 8 on the sides. Those are put in place just in case there is in long term, say the motel burns down or is gone in the long term, then these typical setbacks would apply, even though the current building footprint exceeds them on everything but the west side. Now we're going to move into the 11 criteria that deal with conditional uses, because PUDs are permitted conditionally. So we have to look at these 11 criteria to ensure that the project complies with these criteria as well. So I'll run through these fairly quickly. There is a need for lodging in Woodland Park. We only have 96 rooms right now. This would add 63 more. It would have economic benefit to the community, and we believe that the potential impacts have been mitigated for traffic, noise, drainage, have been adequately mitigated. Number two, the public health and welfare. The construction will comply with the international building codes and fire codes. The fire district did include a letter in your packet recommending disapproval of this project. And this is pretty typical that the fire department, whenever there is a DDA project that has a TIF reimbursement, they go on record disapproving it because they believe that the DDA's property tax and TIF is harmful to their financial benefit. And they have been working with the DDA to try to get a payment in lieu of taxes from the DDA, and also working with the City Council to try to influence that as well. The other thing that the fire district did point out is that whenever a building is higher than 35 feet, it could impact their insurance rating. It's the ISO rating. So they've identified that as well. But staff believes that the financial issue is out of the purview of the Planning Commission. It's not a land use issue. So their contention with the TIF reimbursement is really outside the purview of land use. As far as the height, this building will be fully sprinkled, including the attics. It will also have adequate fire hydrants, and there is ample fire protection and pressure to those fire hydrants. And this is a loop system in the city, so it really is going to be well protected. And the fire district does have a ladder truck that can deal with this. What they don't have is the personnel, which is again a financial issue that is outside the purview of the Planning Commission. As far as property values are concerned, we believe that the property values will not be harmed by this development. It will be a quality development with adequate buffer and fencing, and that there is a letter from Mr. Skiphouse that talks about increasing property values in this area. As far as Harmony, it's a compatible use with the Country Lodge, the shopping center, and the potential impacts have been addressed for the Hunts Addition neighbors. Number 5, conformity to the city plans. In the comprehensive plan, there is a principle that supports providing economic diversity and vitality, opportunities for growth and development, expanding tourism and job opportunities. Conforming with the regulations, we are doing that this evening, is reviewing it in conformance with the regulations as well as construction regulations. It has been referred out to CDOT, IREA, other utilities, and the fire district, as well as our staff. As far as accommodating on and off-site, we've talked about the traffic impact study and the detail that went into that work, and most importantly, CDOT agrees that no improvements are needed other than the access permit. Drainage, I've explained the collection, conveyance, detention, and release of stormwater in compliance with the manual. Adequate water, wastewater, solid waste, it's been met. The demand can be met. Dumpster enclosure for trash will be provided and no impact to air quality. Safety hazard hazards, again, commercial construction in compliance with the international building codes and the fire codes, and the architectural design, again, has pitched roof, gables, articulated wall, 12-pane windows, cultured stone on the first level, or may change to a wainscoting, hardy board, plank siding, and asphalt shingles. Lastly is we're looking at the compliance with the final plat. So this is, as I mentioned, a technical document. It is drawn by Mr. Tom Cave, who is here this evening. He is the professional licensed surveyor, and we have reviewed it to meet the criteria. I will review a few conditions of approval for the final plat, so it does need to be tweaked ever so slightly. The purpose of the subdivision is consistent with a well-designed two-lot subdivision of 4.6 acres, has adequate access, service, and easements. The site consideration is suitable for development with the recent fill and grading and with adequate services adjacent to the property, and with the zoning development permit, the final plans for grading, erosion, drainage, utilities, landscaping, and lighting will all be reviewed by staff. Frontage is adequate on Country Drive. Easements are also adequate. We do have a few encroachments into those easements with the retaining walls and with the awning at the front door. The applicant is willing to accept responsibility for those encroachments should the city or other utilities ever have to dig under that retaining wall and they must be removed, then it is the owner's responsibility to replace it at their cost. So we have adequately addressed that. It will be a note on the plat which gets recorded with this document. So it will be very clear to future owners about their responsibility for those encroachments in the easements. The new lot is buildable, and there is no land use intensity ratio because it's not a residential project, although there is 36.5% site coverage. Typically, a commercial project would cover about 75% of their lot and preserve 25% for landscaping. So this exceeds that quite significantly. Mentioned that the referrals have all been went out. Public notices were posted and mailed letters to the neighbors. We also had a neighborhood meeting which was well attended by everyone and was very helpful for all of us. I'm going to show you all the conditions. I'm going to just very briefly touch on the highlights for the three motions for this evening, and the staff is recommending approval of the amendment and the site plan or the final development plan with several conditions. The first condition deals with having a complete package of construction drawings prior to issuance of a ZDP. That complete package will include the final site plan with a couple of tweaks. The dumpster enclosure, we don't have a detail for that. We'd like to have the design of the dumpster enclosure. The markings for the accessible parking spaces need to be accurate and correct the retaining wall details. They're proposing to use a Ready Rock retaining wall, which will be a very nice architectural enhancement, very similar to what Goodwill used on their recent project, and also the new decel lane at People's Bank has this Ready Rock, very, very nice retaining wall structure. And let's see, we also, item 1B is adding that statement about meeting the performance standards in Chapter 18.33. Item C is the landscaping plan. The final building elevations that show either cultured stone option as wainscoting or as applied to the entire first floor. The final drainage report and plan needs to be submitted and approved by the city engineer. The final utilities plan with the fixture unit counts and floor plans verifying the plumbing fixtures. The final photometric plan showing the relocation of that easterly pole as well as the Kelvin of 3,500 for a warm light, the state access permit, and then payment of fees. There's stormwater fees, transportation capital fees, and tap fees. Number 2 is the sign permit application, which is separate. And number 3 is prior to certificate of occupancy, the approval of the backflow prevention device. In the second motion, dealing with the dimensional standards, I've reviewed what those are and the justification for the site coverage, height, frontage, and building setbacks. The third motion deals with the final plat, and so the few tweaks that need to happen on the final plat is the addition of a subordination clause for the mortgage company holder's signature, the expansion of the stormwater easement. It was shown on the site plan as 45 feet wide. It didn't get caught on the plat, so that's important to add. And then the detailed note that assigns the responsibility for those encroachments. I didn't have in your staff report the retaining wall encroachments, so I've added that in red tonight. And then the word private on Country Drive. We don't want to mislead anyone that this is a public street that is maintained by the city. Rather, it's maintained by the surrounding property owners. And lastly, the adjoining labels for the subdivision. So with that, again, staff recommends approval, and thank you for bearing with the long presentation.
Okay, item 3, applicant's presentation. You're up.
Thank you, Chairman DeVoe. I want to start off by thanking all of you for being a part of it.
Can we ask you, Mark, to come to the podium and use the microphone since we're recording the proceedings?
Thank you very much, Chairman DeVoe. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, giving up part of your Friday night. I certainly appreciate it. And last minute, and even a change of time to 6 o'clock. I know it was messing me up a little bit also. Sally, great presentation. I don't feel like there's a whole lot more I can add to it, but our plans or intentions are to construct a 63-room microtel, and that's part of the Wyndham Group family of hotels. It would be at the upper end of the economy scale hotel. In fact, J.D. Power, 14 of the last 15 years, has rated microtel the highest of the economy brand. I brought a couple of gentlemen with me tonight. I have Tom Cave, who is a surveying engineer, but he's also my construction consultant, and Dave Carpenter, who's a civil engineer. And so I'm going to pass the floor to them to explain some more, and then we can try to field any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Commission, and staff. Thank you very much. Again, I'll repeat putting you out for your Friday night. I know that's a big issue for you, so thank you very much. There are some things I'd like to go over on the microtel itself, and some of these things that I'm going to say you probably already understand from an economic standpoint, but I'd like to get them on the record, if you don't mind. One correction that I would like to make right up front is that it will be a 62-room hotel and not 63. And originally, we were going to be doing a Generation 4, which had 63 rooms. But Wyndham, in all their wisdom, expanded the lobby, added a fireplace and some things like this, and it cost a room. So we wind up with 62 versus 63. But Microtel Inn and Suites is an all-new construction economy brand of Wyndham Worldwide Hotel Group with approximately 300 hotels in the United States and has won the J.D. Power Guest Satisfaction Award in its segment for 10 years. The 2016 Harris Poll Equal Trend Brands of the Year selected the Microtel Inn and Suites in the economy hotel category. So the project length itself, and it's probably going to take up to minimum 10 months with a maximum of 12 months to get it ready for occupancy. The hotel is being built as a family investment. Mark plans on building this, occupying it, managing it, and as part of his family business. And the Microtel is creeping up in market segment. Across the country, the Microtel Inn and Suites has been at the top of the economy brand, but now it is climbing and functioning in some markets as a mid-level brand. That is a very good idea for the city. The Microtel Inn and Suites will have King, Double Queen, and Suites economy brand with 42-inch HD TV, high-speed wireless with intermediate scale, fit, and finishes. The amenities will include a fitness room, flexible meeting event space, and a breakfast area with about 70 parking spaces. The general market characteristic and driving forces for this hotel, I mean, obviously, Woodland Park is an entity within itself. And as a regional area, it does depend upon Colorado Springs for part of its economy. People do, in fact, go back and forth. Some people work in Colorado Springs, and some people work in Woodland Park and travel back and forth. And due to this residential population in the city and the surrounding area, there is a potential for hotels in this market to gain some lodging demand from distressed social interim housing and relocation market segment. This hotel should be well-located to receive a portion of the demand. Lodging demand from this resource will be a more price-sensitive groups coming to the area. Then there is the social leisure marketing demand, or lodging demand. At this time, one of the stronger lodging demand generators predicted for this market segment is visiting friends and family. This market sector is growing in Woodland Park. It was noted that many residents commonly have family and friends visiting, and the wide variety of residents generate a need for hotels for these guests. Being the newest hotel and one of the only upper economy limited service hotels in Woodland Park should provide for the proposed hotel with a competitive advantage in this market segment. Obviously, tourism and recreation is a big draw for this area as well. The tourism market is a possible source of lodging demand in this market area, due in part to the variety of natural, historical, and cultural sites venues located within the regional area. There are several venues that are centrally located to Woodland Park. I'm sure you know what they all are, like Pikes Peak and so on. One of the other demands for the hotel will be the education. The Charis Bible College is located just outside of Woodland Park and is a major employer with 97 employees and about 800 students. The lodging demand from this resource includes administration, human resources, visiting speakers, 6 conferences per year, and 3 will be held during peak season, ranging from 600 to 2,200 people. Campus Days alone attracts 800 people for admissions, graduation, orientation, suppliers, and vendors, etc. To get to sort of a SWOT analysis on this, which will be important to this, the Country Lodge has been owned and operated profitably and successfully for over 3 years by Mark Ribot. The lodge is adjacent to the new hotel, and Mark anticipates extending the Country Lodge's staff and management to the new microtel. This will minimize the training for the new staff. A weakness for this lodging is seasonally of lodging demand shows the market's potential to attract tourists and other visitors during various seasons. This fact is reflected in the pro forma and an average of a 50% occupancy rate. And this weakness can and will be overcome by the Wyndham reservation system that is very highly rated. The opportunity for this is that there's one hotel in Woodland Park, and that is the Country Lodge that Mark owns. The Charis Bible College is located in the Woodland Park and a major employer, so that will help with the occupancy as well. The threat for this and for the entire city of Woodland Park is a major economic downturn. But should a major economic downturn happen, Colorado will survive better than probably other states because of its diversity of the economy. On to the technical side, I mentioned 62 rooms versus 63. So bear with me as I go through and address a couple of items. And there are very few, by the way. On the traffic impact study, the traffic impact study shows 458 trips per day. That does include the existing Country Lodge. So it won't be adding 458. It'll be adding only about 120 or so. On the public cost and benefit analysis, Sally mentioned that we provided some numbers that anticipated that we would bring in about $173,000 to the city in sales tax and hotel taxes. That's the first year, and then it goes up to be $250,000 in the second year, and does continue to progress based on our projections. The country drive that goes along the west side and then goes on out into Highway 24. I might mention that part of that is fee simple to the lodge. There is also an easement adjacent to it that goes on to the shopping center property. So most of it is fee simple and not simply an easement. I think we're in pretty good shape. Sally did an excellent job. So I will complete my presentation, and I ask that you support this project by approving the 3 motions that have been presented to you tonight. And should there be any engineering details, we do have Dave Carpenter from DAC Engineering to help answer any of those technical questions if you're so inclined. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. We We move on to item 4, which is Planning Commission asks questions of staff and the applicant. So if you have any questions, please address them to either party you want to, and these gentlemen will be glad to come back up to the microphone.
I have a quick question. Regarding the height of the building, typical commercial height is 35 feet. This one's proposed at 45 feet. Are there other commercial buildings that are at the 45-foot level instead of the 35?
There are the apartments down at Trail Ridge had a variance for over 40 feet. Not sure it was exact, I think it was 45 feet. So they're residential, but they are considered commercial buildings. The school district has an auditorium that's over 35 feet. The Charis Bible College, certainly, that has over 35 feet. And the recently approved Best Western was going to be 50 feet.
Thank you.
I believe also the building on West Street, back a number of years ago, around the corner there, across from where Starbucks was, that I remember that went through the Board of Adjustment and
It
got increased
did.
as well.
You're
When they
right.
redid the roof and everything on it.
You're right, yes. The Woodland Professional Building,
And when built, what will be the level of or the height of the roof relative to the height of Country Lodge? Will Country Lodge kind of sit above
I think it will.
this property? So it's, even though the building is 45 feet, it will not eclipse the Country Lodge in terms of height.
The Country Lodge will be slightly higher.
A question back to the height of the building at 45 feet. And so we do have a fire engine that has a ladder that can service 45 feet?
Yes.
Related to that, what's the floor height of the third level versus the top roof? Because that roof's got a pretty good distance, and as far as fire department reach to service those upstairs windows. What is it, 30 feet above grade?
Tom, if you can. Can you come to the microphone, please?
Sorry about that. The elevation difference between the first floor and the second floor should only be about 22 feet, something of that nature. And then maybe another foot or two up to the third floor windows. So we'd be looking at about 23 feet difference between the first floor and those windows for the ladders. And Sally did mention that this will be a commercial grade fire sprinkler system, and the attic itself will be sprinkled. So it will be a very safe building in the event of any kind of a minor fire.
Will this be type 5 wood construction or concrete, steel?
It will be frame, yes.
And while I got you up here, there was some discussion about a trash enclosure. I was just wondering where that was. I didn't see it on the site plan.
Can you tell us where the?
Okay.
Right there. Sally's pointing at it.
I guess one issue, looking at the sidewalks and the grades, looks like you've got a perimeter sidewalk around the building close to the walls itself. And it looks like there's the awkward pedestrian access to the lower parking lot to the east. And also there's no connection to pedestrian trails throughout the city. I know, trying to have a walking-friendly community, and there are some venues not too far away that are within walking distance. Are you addressing pedestrian access?
that is an issue that was a little bit of a discussion point for us, and I think Mark would be best to address that very specific issue for a sidewalk along Country Drive.
There is, on Country Drive, on the other side of the street, the O'Reilly side, there is a 5-foot sidewalk currently takes you down Highway 24. In time, we would like to do a sidewalk along the property. In fact, I talked to David Butterweed and to Brian Clear back a few years ago about having a pedestrian-friendly walk. My idea of a pedestrian-friendly walk was something that was brick pavers, and it had pedestrian lighting, and it had some benches and trash receptacles, and a much nicer sidewalk. And rather than build just another 5-foot sidewalk on the other side of Country Drive that wouldn't be used, because seldom are they used, people are walking down the middle of the road, actually.
Oh, there's no sidewalk to walk on, so.
I'd rather do something that was more pedestrian friendly. So I'd like to just delay it for a few years and do it before we can do it properly.
And why is the time delay
Well,
proposed?
because of the expense of putting pedestrian lighting there, the expense of putting the benches, I'd like to see it as a brick paver sidewalk instead of a poured concrete sidewalk. It's kind of, it's important to me that our image is proper too. So I'd like to make it as beautiful of a site as I can. And if I had to do it today, with the building of this, I would just do a concrete walk that's inexpensive.
Anything about access on-site between your parking areas? Because it looks like you'd have to walk, if you use one of the 3 alternate exits, you'd have to walk basically to the front door to get access to the pavement for the driveways and then walk down to your cars. There's no sidewalk or stair connection any other point to the parking area that I'm seeing. Maybe I'm incorrect.
Right there where Sally was pointing with her. Can't take me anywhere. On this exit, oh, it's very sensitive. On this door right here, we just show at this particular point a straight sidewalk. What we will have there is a ramp down to the sidewalk so that they can come out of this door, down the walk, out into the parking lot. So they won't have to go all the way up here to walk back down.
So it would continue basically due south to the paving area, is what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it does become a little awkward because we've got so much difference in elevation for this. And we did bring in approximately 18,000 yards of dirt to get this site up to the level that it is acceptable for a building pad site. So obviously, we wanted to minimize that as much as we could. So that's the reason for maybe a little bit of an awkward site there on that end.
I guess one other quick question. You have your handicap near the front door. I didn't see where the ramps were occurring. You said there was a curb and gutter, so I'm assuming there's a step up onto the sidewalk.
Yeah. Dave, you want to
I
address
just
those?
didn't know if that was at the front entry door or if it was at the parking areas.
Yeah, the handicap spaces are, here we go, right here, next to the front door. And what we've done here, coming in off of here, we've made this as level as we can to make sure there's easy access from where most of the parking will take place into the front door where the registration will happen.
Okay. Just as a note, my understanding of best practices for handicap accessibility is not to have the pedestrians walk behind other parked cars. And so ideally, there would be ramps at each of those loading areas between the spots.
Yes.
Yes.
We agree with that.
Anybody else, folks?
Yeah, how do you
Sure.
plan to screen the electrical equipment?
That's a concern by AREA.
The electrical equipment will all be inside.
So it won't be visible outside then at all?
No, will not be.
And one more, this was originally proposed area for a two-story office building, and now it's a hotel, so the water usage will be a lot higher, I assume. How does that fit into the city water plans?
Utilities Director does not have an issue with this commercial use in the water plan. The factor that we use per capita takes in account for commercial growth.
Anybody else?
How wide is this railroad bed area, this area? How wide is that? What's the buffer?
How wide is the?
Yeah, you have your fence going along here.
Yes.
What's that width on there?
From the wall over to the property line, that's about 50 feet. Does that sound right, Dave?
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, one more.
Jerry?
You're putting a wooden fence along the back to protect, to screen the residents.
Yes.
Wooden fences are, in my opinion, a temporary fix to a permanent problem.
Okay.
So, do you have plans to keep that fence? If you go down, for example, if you go down 67 north, the fences on the right will probably look good 15, 20 years ago, but now they're terrible. So that's what this will look like if you don't really plan on maintaining it. If you get into economic problems or anything like that. If it were a little more permanent structure, it'd be there forever, but wooden fences have a tendency to look horrible and fall apart.
What kind of a fence do you think would be best?
Well, that's all a matter of money. If it were up to me, it would be a nice stone-type fence. That would be there forever, but now we're talking about money, so.
We are talking about money,
Right.
but some of the options we've looked at with concrete fences, kind of ugly too.
It depends on how you build them.
Yeah.
You do have the option to be able to condition this final plan with a maintenance requirement for the fence.
What would I'm sorry, what would that look like or sound like?
It's an added note to the final
But it would
site
be,
plan.
it'd be a 5-year maintenance or 10-year periodic maintenance?
It would
or-
be that it would have to retain good condition.
Okay.
So, since we're talking about the fence, and part of the reason for the fence was to prevent light penetration to the neighborhood, what is the construction? Is it overlapping slats? Is it space slats? What kind of fencing were you proposing?
Yeah, it would be overlapping slats, not open slats. And something that wasn't shown in the presentation is this cross-section. There it is. Hey, this is cross-section. So the cross-section area, we're basically, the fence is basically to block off the roof of the closest house, essentially. The parking lot's already above the second story of the houses that are along the Nod's addition. So it's basically just to keep the headlights from shining through there. So yes, it would be a closed slat construction.
Might mention as well that the number of trees that are in that area between that fence and the property line is very significant. I think Sally actually showed you a picture from one of the views to the houses, which could barely be seen in the houses. And lights and sound and noise will go over the top of those roofs.
Also, there are some man-made products for fences that I've seen that they never wear. I mean, they're just that same color all the time.
Okay.
You can see them if you at Home Depot. And there's a lot of commercial stuff where it's woven, and it doesn't need the maintenance that cedar does. probably a little more to start with.
Perfect,
But a
perfect.
heck of a lot less maintenance, and they make them in white and different shades, depending on what your color scheme is there. So there's other products out there outside of building Great Wall of China along.
We will look into that so that we, and especially in consideration that we might have a maintenance note. We'll certainly want to look into that. Makes perfect sense, Chairman. Thank you.
Anybody?
I'm sorry. I think if we should put a maintenance note in there, but it should be tailored to a wooden fence or similar. So if you change that, then that note basically goes away.
Right. Anybody else? If not, we'll go on to opening, I need the sheet if you've got public comment. If it's been covered, we ask that you, brevity. Is the order of the day? Okay. Scratch that one. Okay. So, what we ask you to do is come up, name, address, serial number, you know the drill. But I mean, so we know where you're from and we get it on record. And the first one is Mark Verbo. You know what? We're getting Dale Schnicker. Where'd Dale go? Oh, there he is. Hi, Dale.
Dale Schnittger, 1361 Pinion Ridge Court, here in Woodland Park. I'll make it short and sweet in regards to that. I've been in Woodland Park for 14 years, and probably 14 years ago, one of the things I heard the most was there's no room for anybody if we have activities or different things within Woodland Park. So I think from baseball to school activities to anything that happens now, Charis Bible College, I am very much in favor of this on a personal basis. I know I work for Vectra Bank, but this is strictly the fact of talking about myself personally and the idea that I very much agree with the new Microtel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Spencer Swan.
Spencer Swan, 609 Mills Ranch Road. I lived in Woodland Park since 1979, and I made the original signs for Brad Howes when he developed that property. And I think his wish was to bring a viable hotel to this town, and Mark has done a great job so far. And I think with this Microtel, we can really cover a lot of bases that were in the initial desires of the guy who started that deal. I have had a lot of friends of mine from out of state show up here, and we need more rooms in this town for people to come. And I know with the Charis, this Microtel would be a good asset. So Mark's a friend of mine. He asked me to be here, and since I knew Brad Howes, I know it was his dream to make a good hotel there.
Thank you. Chris Seuss, am I saying that right? I'm probably slaughtering the name.
My name is Chris Cease, and I live at 1321 Masters Drive. Resident of Woodland Park for the last 3 years. I'm also the Director of Operations for Andrew Womack Ministries and Charis Bible College. So I have a dual vested interest. Part of it is with the amount of conferences we have, and actually we have more than 6. The ability to provide our guests the ability to stay in Woodland Park is just a nice feature for them. And the other thing is, a taxpayer in Woodland Park, I believe that if we could garner those tax dollars in Woodland Park, we'd be better off than sending them down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, I can't read the last name, but come on up. Jones? It's a J. Okay, not a problem. We got it covered.
My name is Scott Jones. I live at 450 Timber Lane here in Woodland Park, and that's directly behind the proposed development. We're under no misconceptions. We know that the city wants this hotel. We're not opposed to development in that area. I've been here before when other things have been proposed. What we do want to make sure is that our rights as homeowners in that area are respected, and that our needs are considered in terms of things like lighting, noise, having 65 to 120 brand new stranger neighbors in my backyard every night. So security is also a big issue for us as well. We appreciate all the work that Sally and her team have done in terms of trying to look after some of those things, and we appreciate the opportunity we had to meet with Mark and talk about our concerns. We certainly feel that he was willing to listen to those concerns. The fence is a new addition to the plans in relation to some of those concerns. That will certainly help block some of the car lights from shining into our bedroom windows. However, I do still have some serious concerns about the noise. So as you can see, that parking area there is essentially directly in my backyard. It is at the height of my bedroom windows on our second floor. So if you have a diesel truck, if you have a motorcycle, those types of things, those noises are definitely going to be coming in our windows. This is Woodland Park. A lot of us don't have air conditioning. I don't have air conditioning. In the summer, we have our windows open, so that we can keep cool at night. So the degree of noise that's going to be back there is certainly a concern. As you saw when Sally pointed out where the trash containers are going to be, that's directly in our backyard as well. So every morning when the trash truck comes, lifts up that big metal thing and dumps it into the truck, that's going to be waking me up every morning as well. So I don't know that a wooden stockade fence is going to be adequate to that need. I certainly appreciate y'all asking those questions, because that's certainly a concern of mine. I think it would help with some of the concerns in terms of the lighting, in terms of maybe some of the security, to make sure people from the hotel don't wander down into our neighborhood. But I don't think it's going to address the noise concerns, and I think something more substantial, as some of you have mentioned, would probably help to block some of those noise concerns as well. But with those comments made, I certainly do appreciate Mark's willingness to talk with us about these issues and to look at some of these issues with us. And Sally, thank you for your department looking after the lighting and those types of things as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keith Hendricks. Thank you. I could read your hand.
Hi, my name's Keith Hendrickson. I live at 440 Timber Lane. I've lived there for 2 years. One of my concerns is my property is the L on the northeast side there, and that's where the retaining wall will be built. And I just have some concerns with what type of retaining wall, what's that going to look like, and again, the maintenance and upkeep of that wall that, 5, 6, 10 years from now it starts deteriorating or something. That'd be a safety issue on my side and affect my property on that side. So I have those types of questions that I'd like addressed. And I appreciate the fence. That's a good addition of some type. I agree too that maybe something more than a wooden fence, something that would last longer and keep people from coming onto our property, and the noise and lighting things too. So, thank you.
Thank you. That completes the people on the list. Anybody else want to speak? Seeing none, we're going to close the public comment. Any rebuttal from the applicant?
Pull out the retaining wall material. It's called, it's a product by Ready Rock.
that doesn't happen because there's too many people on our big events that are staying in the Springs. They have no place to stay up here. And once we can get that, then from restaurants, from everything else that's ancillary stuff that goes along with that, will help us here in Woodland Park. You know, I think especially from Memorial Day through Labor Day, you may find that'll far more, your occupancy rate will higher. Winters are always a struggle up there, but I think you might find that'll be a major thing. We just gotta find more events, bring them up here,
One comment, Mr. Reveau, or a question regarding that fence. Does that extend along the north property line as well, or just along the east side?
Primarily on the,
Got to be careful with this thing. Obviously, the fence will be. Here we go. You can get on the property. Obviously, that will go along the parking lot. Yes. Yeah, we'll go along the east side there, and then all the way along there. And then on the north side, as it turns the corner, we're gonna have to have a fence along there as well. Number one, primarily for the height issue.
Guardrail.
Right. So we'll have to have a fence come around there at least up to the end of Mr. Hendrickson's property. And I might say that the night of our neighborhood meeting, I really felt very comfortable with all the neighbors. They were very courteous to us, and they gave us the opportunity to interact with them, and we really, really tried to listen to them, and we want to respect their rights, and the only thing we ask is that they respect our rights as well. And I think that in this particular case, a fence will make good neighbors.
Gotta do this. Sorry.
I was just going to ask when the planned construction of the fence was in relation to the rest of the project, so that if the fence could be constructed before construction begins, so that it will help to curtail the construction noise and construction materials blowing down the hill, all that kind of stuff, security for the neighborhood as well.
And with the typical progress of construction, we are going to have to put in the retaining walls in order to make sure we hold up these banks properly before we start going vertical with the hotel. We don't expect to go vertical on the hotel until September. We will be working on the retaining walls and the foundation in the month of August. And so I don't think that it would be a big issue for us to put that fence up during the infrastructure portion of the site. And I think that maybe something I'll offer, at the risk of Mark slapping me down, is that maybe on a regular basis during the term of construction that we can have additional neighborhood meetings to make sure that they understand we're listening to them and vice versa. Would that be an acceptable solution? Yes.
Name, sir.
My name is Philip Gale. I live at 446. So we got the guys on the side of me. If you want to know how important this is, there have people who are higher than, I'm at the lowest point in the berm, where the railroad berm was at the back of it. And so any music and things like that from Country Lodge, which has been a big issue around there, for people probably 200, 300 feet away, has never been an issue for me. But when they were doing the construction, the grading, I was out in my front yard, so And the sound on the house across the street from me was louder than if I were in my backyard, because the berm comes down like this. And I'm also concerned about how substantial the wall will be, and how, if there's been any study done as to how much sound it actually will block. I don't know how much a wooden fence with. I was thinking about this when I was on 25 in Colorado Springs, and there was a retaining wall, sound walls down all along 25 for the to protect the people in the subdivisions from the noise. But I was really surprised, because I was doing work in my front yard, and the guy across the street from me, the sound was bouncing off of that house. So this is really an issue. I think it was really about the only thing that most of us talked about. So I don't know how substantial it needs to be, and I also don't know how you would be able to judge how much sound wood would block as opposed to some other structure. So I don't, the engineer probably could come up with all the data on that. But the sound from Country Lodge and Alvin, it really, really will have an effect on us. And the other thing I was thinking about, what time do they come empty the dumpsters, in the morning? And if you've ever been lives close to one of them, it's a bang, bang. So, we're not trying to cost the man money, but it was quiet there. So anyway, but there's the three of us right there that really are especially backed up to it: Scott, Keith, and myself. And so that's really our only concern about it. That's good for Woodland Park. There's people getting jobs. I mean, it's wonderful, except the sound.
Oh, I agree with you. Okay, folks, any time for last questions before we debate among ourselves? Anybody got anything else?
I've got a question for Mark. Where is the employee parking? And if you don't have anything designated, could you put it down here where you have minimum traffic?
That is exactly the plan.
We normally want the employees to park as far away from the door, because we want to save the best parking spaces for the guests.
And then owning a prior restaurant, we used to only get our trash picked up twice a week, and I don't know, what is it generally as a hotel?
It's a little bit of an unknown, but I would assume that trash is going to be picked up either twice or 3 times a week.
You can control that by telling them when you want it picked up.
Correct, and I can control the time of day. I'm just going to I'll use the same trash service that does the Country Lodge. We'll just have to coordinate that effort, but it doesn't have to be a 7 a.m. pickup. At Country Lodge, we have a couple of days a week where they pick up in the evening, and a couple of days a week where they pick up in the morning.
Anybody else? Okay. We will then begin deliberation. Anybody got any questions for the good of our order? Information
Well,
we'll
I
talk
don't know if it's questions, some discussion or concerns. I think pedestrian access is lacking in this project. I don't know if we can put a criteria for future development, a 5-year window to put a nice pedestrian walkway in, or just simply put a requirement that we do provide some kind of access. You're at the building, you're either walking through the parking lot or down the street, even across the street. There's not crosswalk requirements. I'd like to put a condition in there that requires some kind of pedestrian access to the site. And Sally, is there a way to put a time constraint on there? It's usually this is it or not.
You could at a future date require it, but what concerns me is some kind of pedestrian access. It's too open-ended, and we did have quite lengthy discussions. Our current code requires sidewalks on public rights-of-way. This is not a public right-of-way.
But it's a
But
variation of
it's
the PUD, so
but
we
it's a
have the
PUD.
opportunity to place conditions on that development.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. And I was frankly more concerned about trying to get the fence and the lighting correct for the neighbors. And I do think that Mark will put in the sidewalk eventually. I think it's a question for him as to whether he feels that he can be conditioned to do that.
What's Mark's idea of eventually?
Mark's idea.
5 years, 10 years?
You know, back 4 or 5 years ago, the city and I communicated about doing a nice pedestrian walkway exactly where we were talking about doing it. And we were going to share expenses. If there was some kind of a mandate that I had to do a walkway by such and such a time, I'd probably do it right now and just do a concrete walkway and fulfill the demand. It's not my idea of making our place more like a resort. I would rather do the brick pavers, have the pedestrian lightings. But if I go into the lighting there, and I go into the brick pavers, and the pedestrian seating, and the trash receptacles, which will make and cause people to want to walk into town, that's probably going to cost 4 times as much as just pouring some concrete. So if it's going to be a mandate, I'll just pour the concrete and we'll be done with it. If it's not a mandate, in as quick a period of time as I can, as soon as I stabilize, we'll make a nice walkway there.
Anybody else? Among ourselves?
I do have one other comment. Is there any possibility that the trash receptacle, the dumpster, could be put away from the residential neighbor, or is that just really where that is best suited?
Otherwise, it's going to be in front of the building. Pickup times are
Okay.
critical.
Do we have any
Okay,
indication of
pickup
what that
time. Okay.
enclosure is going to be?
Okay.
Is it a wood enclosure? Is it a masonry?
Need to ask.
Is there any projections what that trash enclosure may be constructed of, whether it's masonry or wood?
We're planning on wood.
No, there was no detail.
Final plan will have it on. You'll eventually get there. Anybody else? You know, one of the things that concerned me, and I was on council, and I believe, what year did you build the first time? When did Country Lodge go up?
Country Lodge is 1996.
Okay, and when did the deck go on the back?
Deck went up about 4 years ago.
Okay. Everybody was so concerned about the noise on the backside because of the bands. This one here, it looks like there's nothing going on the backside, just people sleeping. So I think, you know, just got to be careful on those block parties back there, guys. I'm just teasing. But I'm seriously, I don't think they'll have any kind of the noise, with the exception of trash. It's probably going to be noisier building that's ever going to be after it's done, just because of the heavy equipment that's coming in there. But I don't think with all, there's no access to the outside on the backside. I don't believe there's
no patio.
no balconies or anything like that. So I know those windows you can't open, they're made for fire instead. So I don't think that'll be nearly the concern everybody had with the deck on the other one. I really think it'll be quieter there. Anybody else? If not, motion and second time.
Just a reminder, the first motion would be for the PUD amendment and the site plan
Can you put that slide up where you show the three of them?
as,
Might make it easier.
motion number 1 is kind of lengthy. So, but this is the first motion dealing with the site plan review and the PUD amendment with all the final plans and fees being required with any additional note about maintenance on the fence.
This will be the time for a motion, a second, and then amendments.
I move to approve the Tamarack Center PUD amendment to change the use to lodging use and a site plan review, final development plan to construct a now 62-room microtel on Lot 2 of the Tamarack Center, filing number 3, subject to the conditions listed, plus the condition regarding maintenance. Not sure what the wording on that should be.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Amendments? Maintenance?
Yeah.
Talk to her about it.
I'll just add a note to the site, have the applicant add the note that the fence shall be maintained in good condition in perpetuity.
I was going to say perpetual.
In
Yeah.
perpetuity.
Whatever.
Maintain it in its original appearance and condition.
Rather, good condition
Rather
and
than good condition, it's original.
Original.
So subjective. Anybody else? Call for the question.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Watson.
Yes?
Ellen Carrick.
Yes.
Ken Hartsfield.
Yes.
Vicki Good.
Yes.
Jerry Penland.
Yes.
Charles Schrader.
Yes.
Steve Stannard.
Yes.
And John DeVoe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, motion 2 deals with the dimensional standards as proposed for site coverage, height, street frontage, and building setbacks.
So a review of the site plan, this is the only issues that we're addressing.
I'm sorry.
This has been summarized as the site plan review and approval. So these are the only conditions we're addressing in the site plan? Or are we actually looking at the proposed layout and details within that site plan?
You just approved the site plan. These are now dimensional standards.
Well, obviously I'm confused, but very good.
Discussion. Motion second.
Sorry.
Normally motion second, then discussion. I don't care. How you want to do it, guys?
What did you think
Okay, I
you were?
move to recommend approval of the, recommend to the council approval of the amended dimensional standards for development of the 63-room microtel on Lot 2, Tamarack Center, filing number 3, to the following conditions as stated.
Do we have a second? Second. Steve seconds. Now, discussion.
Let's make sure you make that as a 62.
Yes, I just did that.
With a bigger fireplace.
Although,
Any other discussion? Question?
All right. Ellen Carrick.
Yes.
Ken Hartsfield.
Yes.
Vicki Good.
Yes.
Jerry Penland.
Yes.
Charles Schrader.
Yes.
Steve Stannard.
Yes.
John DeVoe.
Yes.
Jeff Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
and the last motion deals with the final plat.
I'll make it. Move to recommend approval of the final plot for Tamarack Center filing number 3 with conditions as noted.
Second?
Second?
Motion is second. Discussion. One of the things I would like to see us look at, discussion, not the burden on these guys to build all these sidewalks to get out to 24. Because we had that same discussion on the other hotel trying to figure out how to walk across all those parking lots, and there wasn't a really good answer on that one either. But, you know, that needs to be a project that should be done because people want to go shopping, eating, they're downtown. Okay, without walking down the center of the street, they got to do that in most of our town. We don't have sidewalks. But I mean, that's an important thing for safety. And I think we need to somehow address that, but yet not be so subjective or not, just having him put in sidewalks to comply, that the city and the different people within that group, Gold Hill South, needs to address that. And I'd like to see us have some kind of a action, maybe within planning or within it, to do that in the next couple years. Not the burden strictly on him.
Our
It helps
opportunity
everybody.
to make those requirements are when we modify the PUD. And that's our existing strength to make those amendments. So we missed it on Gold Hill South, and apparently we've missed it on this opportunity as well.
But we can pass that on to the council for final approval.
Yes.
Can't?
No,
PUD is
council
fine.
does not deal with the site plan review. You're the final entity on site plan review.
We will continue to press that, and I promise you I will do that as well.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Because that's Gold Hill South, and that's everybody's responsibility, because everybody makes money off of it, and including the merchants downtown. So that's might be something that Main Street, downtown development, that can look at. I think it needs to be noted that we're gonna do that somehow when you do this.
So, Mr. Chairman, on the final plat, motion number 3, we have a first and a second. Shall I
Call for the question.
Ken Hartsfield?
Yes.
Vicky Good?
Yes.
Jerry Penland?
Yes.
Charles Schrader?
Yes.
Steve Stannard?
Yes.
John DeVoe?
Yes.
Jeff Watson?
Yes.
Ellen Carrick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So to just reiterate, the city council's hearing next in 2 weeks on the 20th of July will deal with only the dimensional standards and with the plat, the final plat. So we appreciate the neighbors being here, and please do come to the next hearing.
I'd like to thank the commission, and I will take your advice to note so that we can work on that issue of the sidewalk.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate the other advice on the fence. We will take a look at those issues as well.
And
Thank
your
you.
neighbors that are close by, if you have a problem, contact these guys, because they're the people that are gonna have to respond to it. Don't sit back and contact these guys. If you don't get satisfaction, still think there's a problem, get a hold of somebody within the city. Don't sit back and just grumble and do nothing. Get involved with this. If you have some kind of a problem that you can't resolve with the developer and the owner, then at that point in time, talk to somebody. Get a hold of Sally, get a hold of wherever you wanna go. Fair enough?
Thank you.
Okay?
Again, thank you for giving up your Friday night.
Okay.
Country
Guys,
road,
we just
everybody?
gonna, 3 things. If you wanna leave back here in the audience, that's fine, we just gotta go through normal stuff, which is real simple and it's. Chairman's report, I have none. Anybody got a report from the group here? Okay, no reports there. Planning and Building Director, you always got some.
Two just quick reminders. There will not be a meeting next Thursday, but we will have a meeting on July 27th. It will be a workshop on the comp plan priorities. So I'll be getting out worksheets for you like we've done every year, and we'll bring Ellen and Vicki up to speed on how we review the comp plan every year.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. We're glad you're here.
You guys.